Hi, I am Becky Ferguson, and I am here to introduce an improvement plan for engagement for Gardner Newman Middle School in LaGrange, Georgia. The first thing that you have to have when you have an improvement plan is a goal. And the SMART goal that I decided to use from the data that was collected was to enhance learner participation and the community connection with three initiatives. Three initiatives that needed to be student driven, that were inclusive, and had ongoing opportunities for learner input. In doing this, the ultimate goal is to increase the climate score by 20%. The plan for this, and part of this is because of what the data presented, 40% of students felt like they were a part of the school community. That's a rather low number, and 33% expressed that the classroom experiences that they had were stimulating or reflected their backgrounds. And even though students had a strong relationship with their peers and their teachers, there's that social support is not helping to influence academic enthusiasm at the school, because only about 53% of the students expressed interest in the classroom material that was presented. They also, as a result of that, don't really put forth a whole lot of effort in school. Additionally, actually, in contrast, the seventh graders that were have answered questions for this just said that they have friendships and they have interest in the topics that are being presented to them in class. There are places in the school where there are that supporting learning environment and that there's relevant and engaging content. It's not presented in all of the grades. So seventh grade could provide a lot of help in achieving this goal. Because ultimately, the goal and the plan needs to be that there is a comprehensive strategy to increase the use of inclusive and learner-driven instructional practices, expanding platforms for student input and leadership opportunities, and launching community building programs. In doing that, it will help to lead the school to get that 20% on the climate score. So how is this going to happen? The first action step is to incorporate learner-directed experiences, and there's three ways to do that. The first is to explore what the learners are passionate about or what their talents are about. Gardner Newman has a very diverse student background. You have people from all walks of life that come in, and the school needs to be able to provide a way for every diverse background to learn in the school environment. There needs to be clear frameworks and guidelines. There needs to be, a step-by-step support to maintain the academic standards, but also to provide that guidance to help students take ownership of their own learning. And then to highlight and acknowledge learner contributions. You need to be able to see students who are really great at art create a water cycle, or someone who sings very well, do a project-based learning activity where they sing about, like Dr. King. Just those ways to encourage students to participate in their own learning. The artifacts for this step was that the students were very limited in their connection to the curriculum. They couldn't, it didn't really mean a whole lot to them. It didn't capture their attention. It didn't even really have any relevance to them because it wasn't they didn't see themselves in the curriculum. And as a result of that, there was a lack of motivation and investment in their learning. The supporting research for that is from the impact of student learning, empowering students to take charge of their education, and academic instructional settings need to prioritize student-directed learning because it fosters independence and it gives them a stronger commitment to academic success. Action step number 2 would be to introduce a mentorship initiative centered on community connection. The artifacts for that was that there was a very limited connection to the school environment. People don't feel connected to the school. I mean, they don't take pride in their school. I mean, I went to Noonan High School. I still have pride in the fact that I went to Noonan High School because it's Noonan High School. They don't feel that way about Gardner Newman. Separation. There is a separation between personal bonds and institutional inclusion. There really was, people trusted, the kids trusted the adults, they trust their other peers, but because there's just not that school identity, there needs to be something to help mentor the kids so that they have that social support, that they're able to say, yeah, I am from Gardner Newman, and it's a good thing that I am. The research for that is from Brody Shulkin and Foote, and basically that when you have those authentic bonds between the learners and educators, it cultivates that very supportive atmosphere, and it gets kids to want to participate and to achieve. The third action step would be to integrate inclusive instructional practices throughout the academic content. One of the things that came up time and time and again as I sifted through the data and is that they didn't have a connection to the school environment, and because they didn't feel included, they really didn't want to do anything. So setting up something like a student advisory board where learners had an influence on campus initiatives, being able to be seen and heard, and having that community involvement would help. There's just a severe lack of enthusiasm for the classroom content. Only a third of the students stated that their educational experiences simulated or reflected their own backgrounds. And only about half even had any curiosity about academic material. Having students, empowering them to take part in shaping the teaching through the leadership program would be a huge thing, because they would see the direct impact that their voice had on what they were learning in class. The fourth, the supporting research from that, from Gay states that when instructional methods reflect students' cultural identities, and it helps to align their learning experiences with their actual realities, and it helps the kids, it grasps their attention. They become enthusiastic about what it is that they're learning because they see themselves in what they're learning. The fourth action step would be to create a learner advisory and empowerment group. There's just widespread disconnect across all of the grade levels and just a severe lack of enthusiasm for the classroom content. In having something that was more empowering for the students, having something like a youth advisory or leadership groups, it would enhance their participation because it would give them that connection to the educational setting, and it would provide them with an ability to express their perspectives and have them be more accepted. in tune with what was going on in the school. So that was my plan for how to and create more engagement within Gardner Newman Middle School. Thank you for watching.